It's time to get brutal. Are the Indiana Fever just boring hoops without Caitlin Clark on the court?
Caitlin or no Caitlin? Caitlin or no Caitlin? The Indiana Fever got blown out. They got destroyed. They got obliterated. They got humiliated. They got embarrassed. They got exposed to the world.
That was absolutely embarrassing. The Fever didn't even reach 60 points.
No Caitlin Clark, none of those plays.
2 minutes ago, the Indiana Fever got exposed.
The Atlanta Dream having 77 points, whereas Fever only had 58 points. They got exposed.
Again, no Caitlin Clark, no offense.
The Atlanta Dream on their home court defeated the Indiana Fever tonight 77-58 as the Indiana Fever offense in the second half just went totally inept.
No energy. A 20-point loss to the Dream proves it. Without Caitlin, this team falls apart.
Without Caitlin Clark, it's exposing things about this team. It's exposing things about the Indiana Fever.
Caitlin Clark is the kind of player that can take a team at 0 to hero.
Let's break down just how bad it got and why her return can't come soon enough. And hey, if you believe Caitlin Clark is the heart of this team, drop MVP in the comments below. Caitlin Clark is officially out with a left quad strain, and the team says it's for a minimum of 2 weeks.
Fever have players around Clark to thrive. They are heavily reliant on Clark.
You can't win a game without Caitlin Clark. She's still missing them, and a lot of it has to do with Caitlin Clark not being there.
But let's be real here. Minimum is the key word. That doesn't mean she's back in 2 weeks. It means that's just when they will check again. And fans are not buying the idea that this is a totally new injury. Remember, she missed the preseason opener with a left quad issue, and now it's the same leg again. You don't need...
Caitlin Clark has been injured. Stephanie White has coached 4 games. They have totaled 11 fast break points. Thank you so much for the $4.99. Thank you.
To be a doctor to connect the dots. She's been playing through something. You could see it in her last few games. Her shots were coming up short. Her movement looked limited. She was rubbing that leg on the bench. It wasn't random. This didn't just happen overnight. Now let's talk seriousness. A grade 1 strain might be a quick 2-week fix. But if it's grade 2, we're talking 3 to 6 weeks. And if it's worse than that, it could be even longer.
Indiana Fever interior defense, it's not that they're not there. It's just that they're not actually imposing a threat. They're not actually physical, and they're allowing these players to get wide open layups.
But no matter how you slice it, Caitlin Clark is missing games in a short season. This is the first time in her college or pro career that she's missing a real game. That tells you how rare and serious this is.
Aaron McDonald is actually trying to get the ball to Aaliyah Boston in a favorable position on this play. So there were times where they did try to go to her, but look at the defensive help coming to swarm her. And even though she probably could have got a good shot up here, she's not able to because that's really good defense from Brianna Jones.
A roster spot. Caitlin Clark is fighting to carry the franchise. And the worst part, you can't even judge the rest of the Fever roster fairly without Clark out there. The spacing changes. The matchups change. Players like Kelsey Mitchell are forced to take on roles they're not built for. Handling the ball, forcing bad shots, and trying to create plays instead of just scoring. The offense becomes isolation heavy. There's no rhythm, no movement. And without Caitlin drawing defenders and creating lanes, it's a grind every single possession. This isn't just a she makes them better situation. This is a without her, they fall apart problem. Caitlin Clark isn't just the star, she's the system. Let's talk about the Indiana Fever without Caitlin Clark. And the truth is, it's not pretty. When Clark is on the court, she controls everything. The tempo, the spacing, the ball movement, the energy. She's the playmaker, the floor general, the heartbeat. Without her, this team looks completely lost. We've already seen it in the games. She sat or struggled in no direction, no rhythm, no flow. It's like a train with no conductor. They go into ISO ball.
So in the first quarter of this game, the Fever scored 19 points. The Dream had 22 points. The second quarter comes around. Fever scores 14 points. The Dream only scores 11. But in the third quarter, this is when it just all went to hell for the freaking Fever. In the third quarter, the Fever only scored 9 points. The Dream scored 23 points. What sense does that make? Listen. In the fourth and final quarter, the Fever scored 16 points, the Dream scored 21 points, which concluded this game, the Atlanta Dream having 77 points, whereas Fever only had 58 points. They got exposed.
Bad shots, and they fall into slow, predictable sets. This is not the team fans were promised. This is not the high-speed offense we were sold before the season, and let's not pretend the backup options are enough. Sydney Colson is a great vet and a locker room leader, but she's not a true point guard at this level. Lexi Hull has grit on defense, but she's not a floor general. Sophie Cunningham brings energy, but she's banged up too. So where do the Fever turn? Scoring the Fever in transition without even trying. Indiana had just 2. Instead of pushing the pace or running sets to get open looks, the Fever fell into what one creator described as iso ball black hole basketball. Sydney Colson dribbled the air out of the ball, and the rest of the team just stood around waiting for something to happen. There was no creativity, no movement, no urgency. And then there's Lexi Hull.
Lexi Hall had 0.0. Lexi Hall played a total of 32 minutes. She had 0 points.
She went 0 for 5 from the field and 0 of 3 from 3. Kelsey Mitchell's
5 of 16 from the floor. Without Caitlin Clark, it's going to be a problem. When Lexi Hull is 0 of 5, that's going to be a real problem. 0 of 3 from 3. Lexi Hull is really the heartbeat of the team.
5 of 16. Back to what fans are now calling Enrique Kelsey mode. Inefficient, forced shots and turnovers. Aaliyah Boston.
Alicia Gray coming off of this handoff. Easy layup at the rim. And Aaliyah Boston's right there, but Aaliyah Boston is just not there. Aaliyah Boston is right in front of her, but Aaliyah Boston is nowhere to be found. That's the kind of defense you see with this Indiana Fever team all the time, where you have your interior defenders there.
Just 3 of 9 and barely saw the ball in the right spots. Why? Because Caitlin wasn't there to feed her. The third quarter was where things completely unraveled. Coach Stephanie White even said in the post-game press conference, "They hit us in the mouth. We didn't match their physicality. Our connectedness wasn't there."
Yeah, I think they hit us in the mouth. I felt like they did that a little bit in the first quarter too, and we were able to regroup. Their physicality on the defensive end really affected us. It took us out of what we wanted to do and forced us to rush offensively, and they've got really good shifty guards that can get downhill, and we didn't do a good job of guarding our yard or being in rotation, and they've got great post players. They got Olympians on this roster, right? And our ability to match that physicality on the defensive end, our positioning, our connectedness, I thought wasn't there, and they took advantage of it.
And what was the difference between the physicality, you think, like in the first half versus that third quarter and fourth?
Yeah, I don't know if it was different. I just felt like we handled it better early in the ballgame.
She's right. The team got bullied. 44-27 on the boards, layups at will. Atlanta wasn't even running complex plays.
Fever, were out-rebounded 44-27. A lot of the defensive and rebounding issues have been addressed.
They were just exploiting the Fever's slow rotations and weak help defense.
It is some of the worst defense I've ever seen, one of the worst efforts I've ever seen, horrible coaching. Everything about that game was just bad.
Let's talk about interior defense. At one point, the Dream got layup after layup after layup. It was like they were practicing layup lines in warm-ups. Aaliyah Boston, Natasha Howard.
Tasha Howard. For one, I want you to observe the fact that she has a wide open lane. Cut back door. Cut back door.
They were there, but they weren't contesting shots. It was described in one breakdown as watching defenders who were just stationary dummies, present but offering no resistance. And we can't ignore the coaching. One commentator ripped the game plan apart, saying the Fever tried to slow the game down and drag Atlanta into a half-court battle against a team that's bigger, faster, and stronger on the inside. That's not just bad strategy, that's basketball malpractice. At halftime, it was tied 33-33.
Stephanie White is not why the team lost this. By the way, they got into halftime 33-all in the most boring half of basketball in history.
An ugly, boring, low-scoring grind. But then the Dream came out with energy. Indiana stayed flat. And by the fourth quarter, it was over. The result? One of the most unwatchable, uncompetitive games of the WNBA season. And let's be real, this loss doesn't happen if Caitlin Clark is on the court. She changes the pace. She demands defensive attention. She creates for others. At the very least, she prevents a 20-point embarrassment on national television. This wasn't just a loss. This was the Caitlin Clark effect in reverse. Take her out and everything collapses. Caitlin Clark isn't just the Indiana Fever's best player. She's the engine, the spark, and the entire structure holding the house together. Without her, this team is confused, disconnected, and frankly, exposed. The Dream game wasn't a one-off fluke. It was the loudest reminder yet that the Fever's entire system relies on Caitlin's presence, and not just for highlights or threes. We're talking about structure, spacing, and leadership. With Clark on the floor, everyone plays better. Why? Because she commands defensive gravity. That means when she crosses half court, two defenders automatically react. That opens up passing lanes, cuts, pick and rolls, and wide open shots for teammates like Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, and Lexi Hull. But without her, nobody's drawing attention.
Kelsey Mitchell didn't show up. Lexi Hull didn't show up. Aaliyah Boston didn't show up, but you can't really blame her because she's not really getting the ball in a favorable position with no Caitlin Clark out there.
Defenders sag off Colson. They overplay Mitchell. They collapse on Boston. There's no space. There's no rhythm. There's no fear. Let's talk about Kelsey Mitchell. When Caitlin plays, Mitchell is free to do what she does best, score. She doesn't have to run the offense. She doesn't have to be the playmaker. She doesn't have to take contested shots off the dribble. She just spots up, attacks closeouts, and lets it fly. That's why she was named Eastern Conference Player of the Week from June 2nd to 8th, because Caitlin Clark was on the floor with her. And as soon as Clark sat, Mitchell regressed. 5 for 16 against Atlanta, playing out of position, forcing shots, and getting doubled without any relief. The same goes for Aaliyah Boston. She's a dominant post player, but only if she gets the ball in good spots. Clark feeds her with perfectly timed passes off pick and rolls, transition feeds, and high-low entry plays.
It's time to get brutal. Are the Indiana Fever just boring hoops without Caitlin Clark on the court?
Caitlin or no Caitlin? Caitlin or no Caitlin? The Indiana Fever got blown out. They got destroyed. They got obliterated. They got humiliated. They got embarrassed. They got exposed to the world.
That was absolutely embarrassing. The Fever didn't even reach 60 points.
No Caitlin Clark, none of those plays.
Since Clark's been out, Boston is barely seeing the ball. And when she does, it's out of rhythm. No spacing, no movement. Just her, isolated in the post with defenders draped on her. Caitlin Clark doesn't just improve her teammates, she unlocks them. And then there's the leadership. Say what you want about her rookie status, but Caitlin already commands the huddle, directs traffic, and brings confidence to the court. One creator described the Fever without her as a team without a soul. Another said everything just feels slower, more forced, more disjointed. And the numbers back it up. With Clark on the court, Indiana's offensive rating is dramatically higher. They move faster, shoot better, and generate more open looks. The defense even improves, because the offense isn't constantly giving up turnovers and bad shots that lead to fast breaks the other way.
Yeah, I think they hit us in the mouth. I felt like they did that a little bit in the first quarter too, and we were able to regroup. Their physicality on the defensive end really affected us. It took us out of what we wanted to do and forced us to rush offensively. And they've got really good shifty guards that can get downhill, and we didn't do a good job of guarding our yard or being in rotation. And they've got great post players. They got Olympians on this roster, right? And our ability to match that physicality on the defensive end, our positioning, our connectedness, I thought wasn't there. And they took advantage of it.
And what was the difference between the physicality, you think, like in the first half versus that third quarter and fourth?
Yeah, I don't know if it was different. I just felt like we handled it better early in the ballgame.
Fever, were out rebounded 44-27. A lot of the defensive and rebounding issues have been addressed.
It is some of the worst defense I've ever seen. One of the worst efforts I've ever seen. Horrible coaching. Everything about that game was just bad. Tasha Howard. For one, I want you to observe the fact that she has a wide open lane. Cut back door. Cut back door.
Off the court, same thing. Let's not pretend the WNBA's historic ratings this season are a coincidence. The top 5 most watched games of the season all feature one team in common, the Indiana Fever. And nearly every one of those games included Caitlin Clark. One creator pointed out that even when Caitlin doesn't play, people tune in to see if she might. That's power. That's star power. That's value. And still, she gets doubted. After a rough start to the season, critics called her overhyped. But let's look at what she's done. She's averaged double figures in scoring and assists. She's faced the toughest defenses in the league. She's taken elbows, hard fouls, and media scrutiny every night. And she's done it with composure, grace, and focus. Even while playing hurt, she gave the Fever a chance against top-tier teams like the Liberty. The team competed. They moved the ball. They looked like a playoff team. And then the moment she goes out, they collapse. Not just lose, collapse. That's not an overhyped player. That's the definition of value. And now, thankfully, her return is near. Coach Stephanie White recently confirmed that Caitlin is ramping up and has started participating in practice. They're being cautious, smartly so, but make no mistake, her return is coming. When she steps back on the court, expect everything to change. The energy, the movement, the confidence, the fans, the numbers, the belief. Because as we've now seen clearly, without Caitlin Clark, the Fever have no identity. But with her, they have purpose, direction, and hope. Caitlin Clark is not just a player, she is the franchise.
Caitlin Clark is the GOAT.
She signed my jersey. So happy, I'm crying. I'm so happy. This is the best day ever.
Caitlin Clark effect seems to be crazier than year one.
I love watching her score and just everything about her.
They went the extra mile just to watch her play here.
This is great news for women's basketball, period.
This is bigger than the Indiana Fever. This is about the WNBA as a whole. Let's call it what it is. Caitlin Clark is not just a rookie. She is the face of the league. She is the reason millions of new fans are tuning in. She's the reason arenas are packed. She's the reason the TV ratings are breaking records, and now she's out. That is a massive hit to the league's momentum. Look at the numbers with Caitlin Clark on the court. The Fever games are pulling in over 500,000 viewers, even cracking 1 million at times. Without her, the numbers fall fast. One recent game without her brought in just over 200,000 viewers. That's not just a drop, that's a cliff. And we're not even talking about what happens in the stands. Ticket prices drop, energy fades, casual fans start to lose interest. That's dangerous for a league that is just starting to capture national attention.